Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Abyssos, the 7th Circle. This is the third new normal raid made available by patch 6.2 in Final Fantasy XIV, Buried Memories. If you find yourself barking up the wrong mechanic, don't leave, at least not before you bridge the gap and plant the seeds of knowledge. My name is Miztech and I'll be your raid guide. You'll notice that the boss's hitbox is absolutely massive, allowing players to maintain uptime pretty much anywhere on the platform. Also, be careful not to fall off. Throughout the encounter, both tanks will be targeted for auto attacks, regardless of enmity. Healers will need to keep an eye on them, especially during overlapping mechanic combos. When the boss casts Bow of Abyssos, all players will need to take a close look at his arms. If they're raised up next to his faces, players will need to move away from the boss side of the platform to avoid getting hit by the two incoming massive AoE circle attacks from the northwest and northeast. Immediately after, the boss will swipe forward from either the left or right side, indicated by these arrow markers. All players will need to move to the opposite side to avoid getting punted off the platform. Hemitheos' Holy will target all players with these large purple circles, spread to avoid overlap. Immediately after, the boss will cast Hemitheos' Glare 3, which will form a massive donut attack in the center of the platform. Players will have to move directly into the center to avoid getting hit. The second Bow of Abyssos cast will show the variant. The boss will bring both hands forward over the platform, almost like he's trying to give you a big hug. Players will need to move close to the boss to avoid the massive circle attack that will target the south part of the platform. From here on out, each Bow of Abyssos cast can be either variant, and players will have to be ready to dodge appropriately based on the boss's hand movements. Eventually, the boss will cast Immortal's Obol, and a proximity-based damage marker will appear from the center of the room. A dark area will cover the majority of the platform, while 3 circles appear on the northwest, northeast, and south edges of the platform. Players will need to move to the far edges of the platform in either of the forming circles to minimize damage from the proximity damage. As the attack hits, the original platform will crumble and players will be thrown onto these 3 smaller circle platforms that will soon be connected by these magic bridges. In this phase, players will have to handle the same mechanics in the limited arena. Be super careful not to fall off the platform as you move to safety. Hemitheos' Arrow 2 will target both tanks regardless of enmity with large circle tank buster attacks. Move these away from others and use appropriate cooldowns. Spark of Life will deal high raid-wide damage and apply a 9-second bleed debuff on all players. Healers beware. When the boss casts Forbidden Fruit, seeds will spawn around the platforms that will turn into specific adds. These goat things will cause point-blank AoE attacks that cover the entirety of their platform. Players will need to stand on the magic bridges to avoid getting hit. These bird things will cast line AoE attacks in the direction that they're facing, indicated by these arrows on their hitboxes. These line AoEs will cover the entirety of each magic bridge, and players will need to stand out of the way beside or behind the adds to avoid getting hit. One of the hardest mechanics to handle during the triple platform phase are these moving AoE circle clumps. Players will first need to identify where they're spawning from, as they will travel in a line all the way across the platform before disappearing. Once identified, players will need to position themselves out of their path to avoid getting hit. The boss will then begin to cast another massive donut attack, and players will need to move close to the center. Wait for the original big platform to reform before dodging into the donut hole to avoid the attack. Another round of exaflares will appear. On the big platform, players can move to the edge of the spawn markers and move into that area after 2 hits of the attack have traversed the platform. From this point on, the boss will continue to cast Forbidden Fruit, and players will have to react appropriately based on the adds that spawn from each seed. Mechanics will also begin to overlap, and players will need to spread apart to avoid overlapping while also dodging the add attacks. The platforms will continuously change from the big circle to the 3 smaller platforms and bridges. All mechanics will continue to overlap and repeat with various add spawns. In this combo, the goat adds will spawn at the same time as these soak tower circles appear. Players will have to spread around and be ready to move into the tower circles to soak the incoming damage after the adds finish their circle attack. Failing to do so will cause the towers to explode. In this combo, 2 birds and 1 goat will spawn on random platforms, while a knockback marker also appears. Players can use a knockback immunity to avoid this completely, or position themselves to get knocked back out of the way of the add attacks. These mechanics will repeat, and the platforms will continue to reform and change until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into the 8th circle. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.